This is Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network, and I am your host, Mark. Everything about today's guest is unusual. From writing his first song, which he performed at his high school graduation unbeknownst to anyone but him, to being in the cast of Stomp before joining OAR, to the way he plays guitar. Nothing about Michael Parris fits into a neat description, with one exception. He's a great guy. He pursued acting before music and played piano in Europe for a year before moving to New York City and joining Stomp. After that, he wound up playing with Pink for a year. Then he found himself auditioning for a band he never heard of called OAR. Much like the rest of his life, his audition was unconventional. But 20 years later, he's still there. He's developed his own unique style of playing guitar that he's dubbed guitar drumming. He tells how that came about and how Folgers Coffee plays a part in it. He's released the first in a series of albums. This one is aptly titled Guitar Drumming 1. It's got some great cameos on it, and the music is incredibly unique. So give him a follow at Michael Parris on social media, MichaelParis. Listen to him on Spotify and check socials for tour dates for Michael and OAR. And you can follow us at Performance ANX on socials. Get merch at performanceanx.threadless.com. Send money to ko-fi.com/performanceanxiety. And now, I'm excited to present Michael Parris on Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network.
Okay, that sounds great. So no pressure or anything. Performance Anxiety Podcast. Okay. What's up, everybody? This is Michael Parris of OAR. I'm so excited about my new album, Guitar Drumming, which features my acoustic guitar style called guitar drumming. And I've got some great collab artists on there. And I'm so excited to be able to talk about it for hours and hours on the Performance Anxiety Podcast. So thank you so much. All right. Great. Let's do it. As long as you recorded that. I didn't want to say I want to try and be the one take wonder on this, but I'm glad I didn't say it before I did it, because then Murphy would have stepped in and messed everything up. Hey, sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. And I hate updates are the worst. Something always goes wrong.
Right, and you then have to find your passwords again, because often it doesn't. That's like, there's this update fear, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I remember for a long time I was backing up like even all of my voice memos and everything, because I was afraid that stuff was going to get deleted.
Well, that's important for you. I'm sure that's where you do a lot of your musical notes.
Every day. Every day. Yeah. Something. It's just adding more things to go back and listen to, like we have time for that. But thanks so much for taking the time tonight. I'm glad. Oh, no. Let me get rid of this screen. Okay, now we're good. Okay.
No problem, man. Thank you for doing this. This is great. I've been enjoying the album. It's really,
thank you.
It's so different. It's a very unique sounding album. I love it.
I'm always interested to hear how people describe it that have heard it for the first time, because these songs, a lot of them have been with me for a long time, so it's cool to hear an objective perspective on them.
It's such a unique approach to everything, every song. And what I like about it, we'll get into this as we get into the podcast, but what I like about it is it's very upbeat. It's very positive sounding. And I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, I wanted it. For a while, I went through my dark period, and I was writing a lot of stuff that was not so happy, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
So I think on some level it was a conscious decision, I guess. But we can get into all of that, man. As much as you want.
I want to find out a little bit about how you got to the new album. So to do that, let's start at the beginning. So music obviously is very important in your life. You play guitar from a very unique perspective on this album, but you're also a part of OAR, but you play keyboards for them. So what came first, keyboards or guitar?
Oh, yeah, it was piano. 4 years old.
Oh, wow.
My mom had a Baldwin upright piano in the house, and she would play. And I don't remember the exact moment, but she reminds me that I just, started sitting down and just messing around.
Okay.
So it was always the piano, and then everything kind of has stemmed out of that, which I think was a great foundation. I mean, you'll hear music teachers and educators talk about, and I remember when I went to music school, you had to take piano lessons, whether that was your primary or not.
Oh, really?
Theory and understanding. I'm not saying every musician should, but it can't hurt, and I'm thankful that I started that way, I guess is what I'm saying.
It's at the very worst, it's a solid foundation for everything else.
Yes, I agree. Yep.
So was music a big part of the family? Was there a lot playing in the house? Was anybody else in the family a professional musician? No
professional musicians, just, again, my mom played, and then the three brothers took piano lessons.
Okay.
And so thankful to have we had an amazing piano teacher, and she was fantastic. So we were all interested in music and theater and the creative arts.
Yes.
And I was the one of the three brothers that decided to pursue it. And it wasn't really a decision, as you talk to a lot of musicians. I'm sure, I really had no choice. It was pulling me. It was what drives me every day, So the family, I remember my grandfather played violin. I would go see him as a kid in the orchestra.
Oh, nice.
Not professional, but just, so there was always music, but it wasn't like, the Jackson 5. It wasn't like where we were all, music was the life of the family also. That wasn't the case, but it quickly became mine, very quickly.
So what were your early musical memories? What were your parents playing in the house? What got you into music?
I mean, it was the early vinyl. We had Doobie Brothers. I remember we had early Toto and like Chicago.
Oh, wow.
And then, the piano books, when I started to learn how to play and read music, it was the John Denver. It was the Barry Manilow. It was show tunes also. It was a lot of Broadway show tune books. So that was a lot of the first stuff that I was starting to play. And I think that's part of why I got so excited about theater as well.
That makes sense.
Music theater or drama was because those were some of the first songs that I was playing as I was learning, especially to learn to play and sing. Once that hump was gotten over, then that really opened up everything. But it was really those songwriters, Billy Joel songbook, Elton John, some of the first vinyl I was listening to. And then everything just sort of expanded out of that. Talking Heads, I remember very early on for me to stop making sense.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Was like, life-changing kind of in many ways. But those were the early ones. And it was classical too. I mean, I was playing classical piano for the first 10 years of my life as well. Or all the way through college, I was playing. I had to take classical.
Yeah.
I knew I wasn't going to be a classical pianist. I didn't have the dedication and the discipline, I guess, to be that virtuosic as a piano player. So I really focused more on rhythm and melody than the quickness and the speed that I can do all that stuff. It wasn't until way later that I finally embraced and have understood the value of scales and arpeggios.
Yeah.
Just like any other thing.
Yeah.
Just warming up. You got to warm up. But when the piano teacher's telling you to do them, you're not internalizing it like that,
It's extra work. It's homework.
Yeah, I just want to play the songs. Why do I have to do this stuff? It's so stupid.
Yeah.
And then I get to college, and then my piano teacher, the first classical, Paul Ruttman, Hart School of Music, he's like, all right, next week I want to hear all the scales and arpeggios. And I'm like, okay. And then that's all I did was the first week I was just trying to practice the scales and arpeggios, to make it look like I had been doing it. That was the story of my life, man. Cramming. Same thing with education. Same thing with like high school and like studying and homework.
Guilty.
Just leave it to the last minute.
Yeah. I'm guilty of that myself.
Yeah. And it's not like I want to do it that way, but it's just, maybe that's just in my nature. I think I've gotten better at planning and organizing now and recognizing the value of taking some time on something and not just scrambling last minute to do it,
Yeah. I'm still learning that at times, I feel.
Yeah.
But we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. You mentioned, singing as well. When did singing become something that you started to incorporate into your music?
I mean, I was getting into the choir in elementary school. Okay. As far as when I really started to hear and see the magic of being in a group and singing, and the idea of blending and listening and ear training. So it was always I wanted to play and sing. And then it was the first song really that I really felt like was my high school graduation song. And I remember telling Penny Delenta, she's no longer here with us, but she was so awesome. And she said, if you can finish the song by this date, I'll put it in the program and you can perform at your graduation. I was like, okay. Wow. So I was trying to write this song, my first song I ever wrote, and I was listening to a lot of Billy and Elton, and I was sort of in that kind of world. Okay. And I didn't finish it on time.
Oh.
So she did the program, and then I came to her like a week later, and I finally finished it. And this is getting down to the wire, of course. Once again, getting to the wire. I finished it, and she said, no, I'm sorry. You needed to have it done by this time. We couldn't put you in the program. And I'm like, we can't just write it. I was so upset. And so I did it. I did it anyway. And my dad has video of it somewhere, my high school graduation. And I was already playing a song. Another two songs. We were sort of like that, the band, it was me and my friend, a couple of my friends from the jazz band and everything. Okay. And so I was like, guys, hold on a second. I told the band to hold on a second. I was like, I just wrote this song for graduation, and I went and played it, just me and the piano. And then in the video, you can see Penny. She goes and she crosses her arm. But what's she going to do? It's my high school graduation. It's my graduation. I'm sorry I didn't finish it in time, but come on.
What are they going to do to you? You've graduated.
So that started sort of my taking chances a little bit with my music, I guess. And from an early age, I was like, you just got to put yourself out there. You got to go for it. And it was nerve wracking and scary, but that was really where I think I caught the bug of the performing in front of an audience, playing and singing. Was that high school graduation moment.
Was there a moment when you realized that this was something you could do for a living, as a profession? Was that before the graduation moment, or was it afterwards?
I mean, you go into college and you go into music school, and you sort of in your brain, you have this idea that you're going to graduate and have all these great songs that you wrote and just get a record deal and just start becoming a recording artist and touring and performing and all that. And it's not quite that easy. And then you realize that you just need to again, put your shit out there and take the opportunities that come to you. Yeah. I was playing in a band in Hartford, I was trying to get those chops in and continue the joy of playing live music. And it was exciting and fun. And then I moved to New York City. And so that kind of ended sort of my little pursuing music in Connecticut, Hartford. But I moved as an actor to New York City.
Oh, really?
I was always going back and forth between, do I want to pursue acting full time or music full time? It was like I'm thankful that I got to do, again, a combination of that when I got into Stomp, which was absolutely ridiculous. But before that, I really was just trying to be an actor in New York City. And I had gotten into a play that was trying to go off Broadway, and we were trying to get funding for it, and that didn't happen. And then the producer was like, if you ever want to go to Europe and be a piano entertainer, I got this producers over there. They love Americans and British piano players to come in and play these awesome piano bars all over Europe and Norway and all this stuff. So I was like, all right, let me do that. So I went and did that for a year and a half.
Oh my gosh.
And then I was like, okay, now I'm a musician. Now I'm focused on music. That brought me back. Okay. So I come back to New York City. I'm like, all right, I'm going to try and put together a band. I'm going to do this. I'm starting to network and meet people. And then I make the quote unquote mistake of auditioning for this show called Stomp. And then, so once again, it's like the intent is always there, and the desire and the creativity to do my music and my projects and my things. But it seems like I get these opportunities to be involved with other people's creations that are amazing and that inspire me now and that are part of my musical vocabulary, which is so incredible, to think about that.
Did Stomp happen before you met the guys from OAR?
Yes. So it was like European stuff, come back to New York. I got into Stomp and did that for many years, traveled all over the world, did the HBO Stomp Out Loud movie. That was my first time doing radio. You know, first time doing television was with Stomp, as far as like understanding the value of promo and marketing and how and who does those things, you know, and who are the people that set that up. I learned a lot from that show, and I met so many talented people, because it's not just like drummers, it's actors, it's tap dancers, it's ballerinas, it's piano players, other instrumentalists that get into Stomp because they still have the rhythm and the ability to move and to have personality in the show. And so it's just, again, you know, this idea of you just kind of go with these opportunities, always kind of working on your stuff, always working on these songs. Right. Some of the songs that you hear on the album, I wrote during those Stomp days.
Oh,
you know?
Really?
So those have been with me for like over 2 decades, you know, like and it's so, the pandemic really, not to bring that up, but that really, you need to get this stuff off of these hard drives. Yeah. You need to get these demos finished. You need to get this shit out there, because you don't know what's going to happen. You know, you don't know what's going to happen. Exactly. And you have to, if you've embraced this as being one of your purposes of being on this planet and in this existence, then it's not serving anybody with this shit sitting on you need to get this out.
Exactly.
You know? And so that's, for me now, it's just like, finally, you know, Guitar Drumming 1, there's so many songs on there that have been with me for years, just so, and hopefully people hear it and don't realize that, don't and think that it's just, wow, this is all seems even somewhat relevant for now, or whatever it is, whatever they feel from listening to it. I think it's, for me, it's like, that's why there's 3 of these albums planned for the next like year and a half.
Oh, wow.
And when I realize how many songs have guitar drumming as the driving force, the main instrument, I'm like, there's more than that, but I have 3 albums already mapped out, ready. You know, the second one, I'm already starting to work on overdubs next week. It's crazy.
Oh, wow, man. You're not letting anything, no ball screws under your feet.
No, but I'm still enjoying Guitar Drumming 1 and all these songs. I'm going to live in both worlds, I think, of like, still working this album, playing shows. I've got a bunch of great shows, solo stuff booked already this year. I'm adding more stuff and opening up for some people, but then always the percolation of, I'm also working on the next one. Yep. You know, it's percolating. And I've got some great collabs already lined up and everything. So anyway, I can just keep talking, man. So
no worries, man. No, I love that. It makes my job easier.
Hit me with questions, yes.
So how did you meet the guys from OAR and get involved with them?
Yeah, so there's a good story. So I was just watching, remember the movie The Terminal with Tom Hanks? Yeah. I was just honest. I was just kind of watching a little bit of that. And my friend Dan Finnerty is in that movie. Dan Finnerty has this project called the Dan Band. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Dan Band.
No.
So the Dan Band, you remember Old School, the music Old School?
Oh, yeah.
The movie Old School?
I love that movie.
The wedding scene when the singer is singing Total Eclipse of the Heart and he starts swearing.
Yes.
And so that's Dan.
Okay, yeah. I remember that now.
So Dan did Stomp with me, and we did that. We toured around for a while with the show, became friends and everything. And then he left and he went to do his own thing and focused on that project, the Dan Band.
Okay.
And they got a lot of really cool success and cult following from that movie in particular.
I bet.
He had these shorts that he did on the Jay Leno show for a while when it was at like one of the shows went to 10 o'clock, I remember, for a while. Remember that? And he was doing this little musical kind of comedy shorts. And so he's so talented, incredibly talented. Anyway, so 2005, so my first big break from Stomp was when I played with Pink. I played with Pink for like a year and a half.
Oh, sweet.
During the Misunderstood album.
Okay.
Get the Party Started, and Linda Perry co-produced and co-wrote half of that.
Linda Perry.
Yes, I know. Me too. And so that was my first sort of departure from stomping and then getting back into the music, where I was like, okay, this is what it feels like to play Madison Square Garden. Like,
Man.
and music. And so I did a lot of promo with Pink. I did Saturday Night Live with Pink. I did Top of the Pops with her.
Oh, wow.
Got to travel to Australia with her. Like I did a lot of her promo shows and radio shows while we were marketing that album. It was incredible. So then I came back from that experience back to Stomp, and I was like, I guess I can't physically do this anymore. I'm in pain. My body is saying no more.
Wow.
And Luke and Steve always said to us, the creators of Stomp, he was like, if this ever turns into just a paycheck, then find something else to do.
Yeah.
And for me, that's kind of where it went, because I knew physically that my body was saying, stop doing this.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what else to do. I mean, I knew I wanted to do music, but nothing, I hadn't, whatever. So it was that 2005 moment where Dan called me up and he's like, hey, I'm doing this House of Blues tour, the Dan Band House of Blues tour. You want to play keyboards? And I was like, thank you. So it was that summer of 2005. So it was amazing. It was incredible. I laughed so much, more than I've ever laughed on a tour before, and got to play his show. And it was so much fun. And then after that tour ended, this guy, Adam, who was tour managing and doing front of house, texted me. And he's like, I'm hanging out with some of the crew from this band OAR at this Feeling Better Than Ever Fine festival, which is what the band's old label used to put out at the festival every year. Okay. And they're looking for a steady keyboardist. So the Stories of a Stranger album was just about to come out, and Stories of a Stranger was produced by Jerry Harrison.
Right.
From the Talking Heads.
Yeah. And
he got Bernie Worrell to play keys on that Stories of a Stranger album.
Wow.
So already I was just like, okay. So I didn't know that though. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, just text, give them my info. He's like, can I give them your number and stuff? I was like, yeah. And then Jerry called me a little while later, and we talked on the phone, saxophonist from OAR. And he's like, all right, I'll send you some CDs, and the band's going to see a couple people in New York City, sometime in the next month or so. I'm like, all right. So they sent me like 8 CDs. Like, what? Who is this band? And so the only thing I'd seen was in New York City, like above subway entrances, OAR, PNC Art Center. And it was the 5 of them, this picture of them. I'm like, that's like a big, who is this band I've never heard of? Because it's not, the band isn't like a radio success band. Yeah. The band is a tour live show success.
Grassroots.
All bands, of course, want to have radio success, and Shattered was a great song for the band. It was great. But at that time, I hadn't really heard on the radio or somewhere like an OAR song. I wasn't really familiar. And then the only CD I didn't really listen to that much was the one that was written with a Sharpie. And then 3 days, Jerry calls me and is like, all right, are you available 3 days from now to come in and meet up with Mark and Benj? I was like, yeah. I was like, all right, listen to Stories of a Stranger. We want you to prep Program Director and The Stranger and Lay Down. I'm like, Stories? What album is that? And I'm looking through, I'm like, Of course. The one that I thought was just, that can't be that important because it's just written in Sharpie. No, it's the opposite. Yeah. That's the most important.
But
so I went in and
you got to cram.
And, again, see? That was an unintentional cram. That was an uneducated cram. That was and I spent weeks kind of working through the other albums, sort of at least familiarizing myself. What songs are they going to ask me to play? There's like 150 songs here. How am I supposed to prep any of these really and know and sing and do back all the stuff I want to do with the band? And then I get there and Mark and I talk literally for like a half an hour. We don't even play anything.
Oh, wow.
We're just talking. And, he's like, I love that you're in the Stomp and all this stuff. I was like, yeah, man, like percussion and rhythm and being part of a group and understanding everyone's role is, equally important regardless of what you're playing or how many measures you're maybe playing that for. Everything is important and makes sense and is there for a reason. And he really just liked my sensibility and just love of music and everything. And I was like, can we play a couple of these songs? We played a couple of songs, and then he's like, all right, someone will be in touch. Thank you. As this next guy's coming in, who flew in from LA.
Oh.
And was bringing in his own Wurlitzer keyboard. He was bringing in all this gear and everything. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
And I was just like, thank you guys so much. And then he called me later and he was like, all right, you want to do this? I was like, yes.
Nice.
So that's 20 years this September.
Wow. Jeez. Congratulations, man. 20 years. That's insane.
I know, it's the longest job I've ever had, that's for sure.
It's longer than most people have any job.
Any job. And I get to play music. I'm so thankful every day, you know. It's just, and it's still a roller coaster, you know, and it's still ups and downs, and it's still times of struggle and times of pure joy, you know, just like anything else. Wouldn't have it any other way, you know. So
what is the process like for OAR creating music? Is it everybody's pitching in songs, or is it somebody brings in an idea and everybody just puts their own part on the idea? Is there like one particular specific main songwriter, or is everybody jumping in?
I mean, it's kind of a bit of all of that, but you know, Mark and Richie, guitarists, they've historically written the most songs for the band. And but there are certainly songs that Jerry has written that are wonderful and beautiful. And then, like you said, it's then the band getting together for the most part and kind of playing through the ideas. Okay. A lot of sound checks during tour are spent working new songs.
Oh, I love that.
Mark will come and just, here's an idea, and I'll just guitar and vocal something, and we'll just all start, you know, and just start trying to mess around with it. And maybe he's got some ideas for things that he'll kind of direct. But, you know, he kind of, for the most part, he's the band leader. Yeah. Especially in those situations, you know, but it is a democracy, but, you know, there's certain situations where he's driving it. But creatively, yeah, it's like the band is always, like Mark and Richie, the main songwriters, they're always still open to ideas from everybody else and often asks. And so it is definitely a collaborative environment as far as songwriting. And then there's times where, you know, the band will work with a producer, and then the song will kind of be fleshed out. And then I'll have to go and learn the keyboard parts because, you know, maybe the producer played those parts and was like, those are freaking great parts. You didn't need me, you know, but I need to learn them. So when we play it live, I want it to sound as good and accurate. Yeah. So it's a combination of all those things.
When did you start working on your own music? Was that, you mentioned that the stuff on the new album, some of it is decades old. Were you writing from your graduation day through Stomp up to OAR, or
all the way from that moment?
Wow. Nice.
You know, in college, you know, always having a place where my keyboard and my multi-track recorder could go, and a microphone, and stay in every day working on ideas, you know, in the keyboard, getting the laptop, and, you know, so all through college, kind of writing, and then all through Stomp writing. I was playing out during my Stomp years in New York City when I could. The show took, you know, mentally and physically so much out of us that it was hard to then take your off days and then work and practice with the band and try and get, you know, and then do all the energy needed to be successful in New York City as a local performing artist, independent artist.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
So it was always percolating. And again, it was always writing. So it was, again, getting back to this it just became this back catalog. It became this weight on my shoulders of all these songs that I've written that many of them finished, just not a recording that I felt was worthy of releasing, I guess. Okay. And not that I'm a perfectionist, but, you know, I've embraced more the organic nature of things and allowing mistakes and not over editing and not going into Pro Tools and lining everything up perfectly. You know, it needs to still breathe and have emotion and humanity to the music. I think. So it's always been percolating. It's always been percolating since that high school graduation moment when I really wrote that first one. And then the guitar drumming thing, that was like a whole new writing the first one moment for me. Again, when I kind of figured out how I was going to do this, it's starting right out of college with my first roommate, with him on acoustic guitar and me with the Devil Sticks. 3 devil sticks wrapped in the tape that you'd see at Grateful Dead shows and stuff. Spinning. And I started drumming on his acoustic guitar strings and was fascinated by that sound. You know, we're just hanging out, having a good time, drinking, doing whatever, and just like, oh my God, it's so cool. And then not really thinking about it until I get into Stomp some years later. And I go, you know what? These guys are inspiring me to look at things a little differently. I was already looking at things differently, but they empowered me to follow, I think, and pursue more strange ideas like that. So I was like, let me take out that acoustic guitar again and figure out how can I do that sound with not a partner, with just me play, you know, how can I, and I want to lay it flat because that's my natural position playing piano. And I broke this wrist in junior high school. So trying to play acoustic guitar traditionally always was uncomfortable for me. So I was like, I want to figure out how to do it like this. And how can I open tune, and how can I change chords, and how can I do rhythmic stuff, and how am I incorporating the body and the knocking and poking and the traditional guitar plucking kind of things and finger picking and all those things. And so part of me too was, you know, I didn't really want to present this guitar drumming until I felt like it was second nature to me.
Okay. Yeah.
Until I felt like it was like playing the piano.
Okay.
I'm not thinking about the techniques and the mechanisms so much. I'm just thinking about performing and letting the music run through me. So not to say that I needed 20 years to do that, but it just so happens that, you know, this is when I'm focusing an album on it. I guess that's the difference. I've been releasing songs and releasing albums that have had I've played some guitar drumming style, but it's never been the focus of it.
Oh, okay. Because that was going to be my next question. Flow came out in what, 06?
07, yeah. And and Flow is guitar drumming, and Fortunately is guitar. There's a bunch of guitar drumming tracks on that.
I love Flow. The song is awesome. I love that. Like,
oh, thank you.
That, like, what is that? Reverse echo in that comes. I don't know what the term is. It like fades in. It's the effects that you're using on it. It's really cool. So I like that
thanks,
song.
Man.
My seat goes into you again, and I believe we have the power to this end. I told you then, and I tell you now, the same.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that one, and it's not an easy one to play out by myself. So I'm really looking forward to doing that one again with the band. Like, I'm so glad you like that one.
Oh, I love it, and you know that Hi How Are You is great. Snidbits.
Yeah, thank you.
And that was my question when you mentioned that, you know, some of the tracks on guitar drumming are older. I wasn't sure. It's definitely not apparent, because my question was going to be, was the stuff that's been released on guitar drumming, was that done at the same time as Snidbits? Because there's only a year between the two releases. You know, one 2024, one 2025. So I didn't know if they're all done at the same time, but it sounds like they weren't.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess with how I'm releasing music, it's not necessarily an accurate representation of where Michael Parris is right now in that moment, leading up to the release, right? I mean, there are elements of how I'm overdubbing the songs now and mixing and certain things that are different than if I had released the same song 20 years ago.
Sure.
100%. But the Snidbits songs were, and I've got another, I don't know, 18 of those ready to go.
Wow.
Snidbits and Slippies. That's the next one. So Snidbits were songs that I wrote during the pandemic.
Okay.
And one of the things that I did to sort of break down my walls of everything needed to be perfect and allow myself to be vulnerable in front of people and audience was I did this thing called the Snidbit Workshop, where I would go into my phone, into a voice. I found a voice memo of an idea, and I would start with that voice memo from the phone and play it during the live stream, and then say, okay, let's work on this idea. Let's flesh this out a little bit. And then I would start writing the song during the live stream as part of this Snidbit Workshop segment. The segment was like maybe 10 minutes long, right? And then each week I would go back to the Snidbit Workshop and show some progress that I'd done. Oh, I added some backbeat and some drums, or this cool bass line. And so Snidbits came out of it. Well, the album is really going to be called Snidbits and Slippies, I should say. That's going to be the next one. But that's where Snidbits comes from, or Snippets is, I think, the correct way. But I always called it Snidbits. Okay. And so I was like, well, these are all songs that I wrote during this workshop during the pandemic. And again, some of the germs of those ideas might have been a song that's been with me for decades.
I like to sing it in the morning. I like to sing it when I'm driving. It calms me down. Even when I'm feeling lonely. I like to sing it in the evening. Yes, I do. One of these days.
It was just maybe a melody, or I just maybe had a chorus hook, and then the Snidbit workshop kind of fleshed it out into something. But then most of the songs on Snidbits are songs that I wrote during the pandemic in that moment, which does kind of, for me, I guess, chronicle my headspace where I was very much so during that time period. And so I might have to take back then what I said about my albums not being so much. That might be the only one. That might be the only one that really is like lyrically, and the feel of that, what I was going through from any moment to the next during that period of time. And so there, yeah. But yeah, this guitar drumming one there is a combination of, there are some newer songs on there, but for the most part, it is songs that I have been working and performing and feel like I really honed them leading up to the recording process and then the finishing process.
So when you're working on these songs and you're not out on the road with OAR or working on material, how often are you out testing these songs? Do you play them out live a lot, or are you mainly focusing on doing like you were saying, the live streams at home? What's your process for getting these songs honed?
Yeah, it's all about playing them now. It's all about playing them out live. I've been doing a residency here while I've been home, which I felt was important for me to find a place in the New York City area that when I'm here I can go and it's like my little dive bar that I can go and just try out ideas and play and test new products and stuff. So I've been doing it twice a month since January. And so that ties in perfectly what you said as far as like a way to try things out and testing in front of, even if it's just 20 people or 10 people, it doesn't matter. It's about, I need to be always doing the process. So the live streaming, and this is where I would do it in the studio, it would be all green screen. I had green screen walls here and I had 5 cameras and just lights all over the place. And it was
a production.
It was fun, and I learned how to do a lot. I've always been into videography, but I needed to learn how to stream. The OAR tour was canceled in March of 2020. I was stuck in Cleveland for 5 days, and then you're home, and then you're like, all right, well, I wanted to start live streaming something anyway, so this is as good a time as any. I may as well do it. Yeah. So 5 days later, I was like, here we go, and it was just trial and tribulation. But that really also, again, this idea of just constantly experimenting and trying things out and not feeling like you come up with an idea and that's it, it's done. No, you gotta work it. Maybe it's not the right key or the right tempo or any of those things, keep true to as much of the original inspiration. I try to do that always. Yeah. Because when you have that moment of inspiration, it's like, that's magical. It's unexplainable for a musician, for an artist, for anyone creating. You can't put that in the words. It's just how it happens. Yeah. And so I think it's important to retain as much of that magic of what you sang into your voice memo, or what you, in that moment when you were creating it, tapping into it, but now it's like, no, but you still need to Jackson Browne, I remember watching some documentary. He was just he would sit there for hours just playing the verse over and over again. Yeah. Or trying slightly different this, slightly different that. And then, hours and hours of just I don't have that discipline, again, because that's why I'm not a classical pianist or a pro golfer or anything. But I want variety in my life. I want every day to be different. And, and when I play a song, I want to play it differently every time. I'm not saying completely differently, but just the way that I voice a chord or the way that I play a rhythm in the chorus or whatever it is, That's the thing, with the Stomp shows, every show is different. Even though it was the same run of show until Luke and Steve came in and added a new number or something, but there was different people that would do different roles on a regular basis. So they brought a different feel. And then there was always like 10% improvisational in Stomp too, as far as blocking.
Oh, cool.
And where you could go on the stage and who you could interact with at this moment compared to that moment. And with OAR too, it's the same. It's every show is different. Never the same set list. And the way that we play the songs, rarely do we play a song the same way.
Oh man, that is awesome.
That's what I need. That's the type of artist and musician I am. I know that there are people out there that need the regiment and the regularity, and they focus on that and they do it better than anyone else, but I never only wanted to do one thing super well. I wanted to do a lot of things pretty good,
Well, it sounds
that
like,
makes me happy.
Yeah, it sounds like your music, your bandmates, your time at Stomp, everything is almost a version of improv where you're saying yes to things, and the yes and practice where you say yes and then you add your part to it to keep it going.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm a huge fan of that. I did a little improv years and years ago and I loved it.
Yeah.
I wish I could have kept it up, but family and job.
I remember getting into a discussion with my friend Amina, my Stomp friend, about the always say yes in improv thing.
Yep.
And I didn't want to accept that. I think I didn't want to accept that there had to be a rule in a style of acting that you always had to follow. That was just me personally. I think, so I would debate with her that topic of always say yes. And I'm not saying I'm a great improv actor or a great actor at all, but
no, but your life is kind of going that way.
It has been. You're right. So, but I like to feel that I'm not putting on a persona in my life, that this is Michael Parris. This is who I am. So I guess maybe that is one distinction. But yeah, you're right. That my whole professional career seems to be full of that improvisatory spirit, I guess.
Yeah, being open to things, even if it's not something that you were prepared for or something,
exactly.
a direction you had never thought of going before.
Yes, being open to things. And opportunities like we were talking about earlier in your career. Being open, and I had to let that go a little bit with my music, being so protective about my music. Like, these are my babies. I created these. Don't tell me how it should sound or look or feel. I'm the only one that, and I'm glad I learned to let a lot of that go, because it's created, these songs are better than they could have ever been if I hadn't done that,
Yeah. So they're your babies. How did you pick 8 of them?
I know
that must have been a difficult process.
Well, the Move It bookend with 8 being the instrumental version of Move It. I knew that from day one.
Oh, okay.
So it's really 7. I think it's really 7 maybe. And I knew that Move It. I wanted Move It to start guitar drumming 1, because that's one of the first songs that I wrote with this style. When I figured out how to do it, what it was, how can I sing and do this stuff too? Because that was just like, you have to learn to sing and play the piano, and sometimes you're doing a rhythmic part and it goes against what you're singing. You have to actually break it down and sit there and like, when am I fitting that into? Oh, there it is, and then figure it out.
And I can't take this, lessons never learned. I can't shake this feeling I've been burned. Ooh, respond to my past again. You will find
I knew that Move It was going to start. And part of what I used for the songs were, in playing these songs live too, like, I'm a big fan of like a running order. I'm a big fan of set lists that make sense, and songs that can flow into another, right? And that can connect with each other.
Yeah.
It's so interesting how you can be so not that now and just focus on singles, one song, not really having that same kind of mentality of an album and running order or a set list and things really making sense and going from one to the things. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Sequencing is a lost art.
I love it. And I do that even with like my playlists when I'm releasing a song, and I'll do a playlist with the song and then all of my favorite songs that seem to connect or have inspired that song for me by other artists. I love it, or like, it's like doing a mixtape.
Exactly.
Like
I was just going to say that because I'm not a musician.
And
so
you knew that there were some people that you knew who made great mixtapes because they had that sensibility. They understood, like a DJ they understood that, how this is going to go into here and how magical it is to have awesome transition, so I knew that Move It for me always really went nicely into Good to Go. There was something about and kind of changing the tempo and the groove a little bit, but getting to that funk of Good to Go, that pocket right away. And then having a guest artist on the second song for me and having Vernon Reid be on that, which was a 20-year story as well, was incredible. And I knew I wanted to start it off with something meaningful for me, but that also seemed to make sense as far as transitional from the key that Move It is in and the key that Good to Go is in.
What's your name? You look like Mary. Oh, what's your game? Hard to get. Come on. I'm good to go, good to go, good to
And then I knew I wanted to do a song with my friends Of Good Nature in Charlotte. And I had this song Downtime with me for a while, and that was a deep cut. That was probably, that goes back far too.
Oh, really?
And I'd always sort of like struggled a little bit with it, like what the chorus was and the structure. And so I gave that to Cam Brown, and I was like, Cam, like, let's do a co-write on this and talk about letting things go. I was like, man, I want your input. Send me some structure ideas. And hey, instead of going here, I think we should add 4 measures. Like, I want all that. Like, give it to me, please. So,
awesome.
Like, that was a big moment for you to be able to like finally let that go. And then that track for me sounds better than I could have ever friggin' imagined. I knew like on that third spot, that I wanted to pick the tempo up a little bit too. I wanted to have something kind of up tempo.
Yeah.
And Downtime felt like I'm just so happy with how that came out in the music video, and we shot it at his studio and everything. And
oh, cool. Okay.
So that was really cool. And then, I knew Hit Me was going to be on the album because that's a quintessential guitar drumming song for me. Good to Go is quintessential guitar drum. Move It. It's again, it wasn't that. It was like, here's my top 50 guitar drumming songs that I've written or that I want to finish that I know are really good. I want to fit them into 3 albums, basically. Okay. So how do I do that? If I can do 8 or 10 songs an album, okay, I'll kind of have some. They're not all going to be on 3 albums. And so then I knew Hit Me was going to be on there. And again, just the band had just done a tour with G Love. It wasn't G Love and Special Sauce. It was G Love.
Oh, okay.
So he was the first of 3. And so we got to hang out on that tour, and I got to be friendly with him and just, man, I saw G Love and Special Sauce open up for Blues Traveler.
Oh, man.
Roseland Ballroom back during my Stomp days. And that was right when the big record came out. And I like Cold Beverages and all that stuff. Just so many great tracks on there. And so I always experimented with harmonica, to be honest with you.
Oh, really?
I had some friends back in my Stomp days too that we would jam, and I love that idea of this harmonica sound. Again, it's been this experiment of what sounds good with this guitar. What sounds good with the tone and the timbre of what I'm doing in this song as far as instruments? What's going to complement it?
Yeah.
What's going to support it and not fight with it, not fight for frequency? So, I mean, it hit me just, that was exciting. And then I knew that I wanted a couple ballads, slower tempo things,
Sure.
and Make the Most. I just love that song so much. I actually wrote that I remember some years ago, Folgers was doing like a competition to come up with their new theme song.
Oh, okay.
They wanted to refresh their Folgers theme song. So you sort of had to write about these topics.
Okay.
All right. Awake in the morning at the break of day. I mean, like I was trying to think of, okay, start the morning off and like the things that make you happy in the morning. And obviously they didn't choose my song, but I was thinking about a slower song and a happy ballad.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, man, Make the Most. I started playing it again, and that one just turned into this incredible. Again, going into the studio and tracking a bunch of these too also really helped me decide what was going to be on the first one.
Okay.
You know, I tracked a whole bunch of songs, and I've still got 4 of them from that session that are going to be on Guitar Drumming too, which is
cool.
great. So,
Head start.
Make the Most. Yeah. What's that?
You got a head start.
Yeah. So, and keeping it positive and Make the Most. And then, Resistance has been a song that's been with me for a while too, and has been featured in a lot of these songs. Has been featured in my Tune Trek project. Tune Trek is this history through music show.
Yes.
I've got like 68 episodes I've filmed that I still have to talk about stuff on my shoulders of like episodes I still haven't gone in and edited. I've been all over the country in some incredible places with that project and writing songs. That's going to be 2026, Michael Parris Tune Trek. That album's going to come out, and that's going to feature, I'm going to try and get like 16 of these songs and then 16 episodes of Tune Trek as a companion. So the music videos will actually be where I perform the song. Yeah. So that's 2026.
Oh, that's not, 'cause I love World Will Remember from North Carolina.
Oh, thank you.
I love that one.
Dream it, how to rock it down, build it, get off the ground. World will remember your name. Fly it, keep in the air, keep it, don't be scared. The world will remember your name. The world will remember your name. The world will remember your name.
Yeah, that's a good one. World will remember your name. World will remember. That was amazing.
I didn't get to see them all yet, but that's one of the ones that I did. That sticks out for me.
Thank you. That was an incredible. The fact that they let me into that old hangar with all that stuff. That hangar is being renovated now. You can't even go in there.
Oh wow.
But Resistance, I did at the. That song's been with me for a while, and I performed that at this place called the Mission of St. Marie, just outside of Syracuse, and it was like snowing, and it was this old fort, and I knew that song wanted to be on there on this collection as well, and I had already. I basic tracked like 20 songs at this amazing studio in Syracuse back in that was like 6 years ago.
Oh wow.
And I've only pulled from that session because most of those are for Tune Trek. Those are, I was focusing on the Tune Trek songs, but there's a bunch of them that were sort of cross platform. They're Tune Trek songs, but they're not songs I necessarily wrote for Tune Trek. So Resistance, I wanted to experiment with the vocals on that one. I really wanted to experiment with like stacking these harmonies and I'm a big fan of Prince. He's been a big inspiration for me. And I really was channeling him a little bit on that one to sort of vocally see how far I can go on that track.
Okay.
With the most sort of cool vocal stuff as I could.
Yeah.
And then, again, another ballad, Grove, that song's been with me for a little while as well. And it was really the experiment with that one of, I don't want any drums. I want to do everything with just my hands and my mouth.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of vocal percussion in that. Bobby McFerrin, big influence for me as well, as far as vocally what he has been able to do and continues to do, just mind blowing. He came to see Stomp. He came to see Stomp, and I got to meet him. He hung out afterwards, and I got to talk to him about one of the songs on Medicine Man, and that's part of the inspiration too for me. Really, like when I perform live, I have a clean vocal and then I have an affected vocal, so I can do like my vocal percussion stuff and my distorted mouth bone, like vocal melodies with effects and everything. And he was a real big inspiration for me, having the confidence to incorporate and to explore this as your main instrument. Yeah. This can do so much. And what he was able to do and continues to be able to sounds and his pitch, and he does classical music too. Like he's
just fascinating.
I can't even. So there's so many inspirations as you're hearing slowly, as far as throughout the years for me. And you can hopefully hear a little of those things in these 8 songs, I think you can. And again, it's just me, when I upload my music to my distributor, I have to choose the genre and the subgenre.
Oh, gosh.
And so, I've been having conversations with people and looking at just where things are. I'm like, fine, I'm going to be a funk artist for this guitar drumming release.
Oh, I like it.
And I like that it seems like a less almost competitive genre in some ways, it's or it's not as like the rock genre.
Oh yeah.
I mean, rock encompasses this incredible range of sounds and texture. Like same thing with pop.
Oh yeah.
And like funk, I felt like I think it gives people a little more, get them a little more of an idea maybe of what you're in store for, maybe. And I go back and look at, I just watched the Sly documentary. Vernon Reid is all in that too. This incredible new, have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
It's another Questlove production.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Incredible. And so I went and listened to the first Sly and the Family Stone record, 1967. Yeah. He was doing this that didn't make any sense with what else was going on.
Yeah.
And he's still around. He's still here. The documentary is incredible. So I go back and I start these types of discussions forces me to do an exploration on my own musical history and what am I?
Yeah.
I don't like genres. I don't like labels. I don't like any of that. But you have to choose. Yeah. Right? If you want to upload your music and for people to hear your shit, you have to choose.
Yeah.
Something.
Unfortunately, I don't know another way to do it, I guess. I mean, I've found that most musicians don't like genres. It makes sense to me, but.
And there's so many artists and bands that we can talk about and say, well, they fit into this. They fit into all these genres.
Yeah.
So how do you,
Living Colour.
Yeah. Hello.
They do everything. Literally everything.
And his guitar playing, you listen to that track and, you're listening to it and you're like, okay, yeah, I hear Vernon kind of noodling around and doing stuff on the electric guitar. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's kind of jazzy, and I was like, he sent me the original tracks and I was like, in my brain, you're hearing Vernon Reid of Living Colour because I wasn't as familiar with what his solo stuff and his wide ranging musical vocabulary. And then when he sent me, I was like, okay. And then the 2 moments that I really heard Living Colour Vernon Reid, those solo sections, when it kicked in, I was like, okay, there we go. And then his perception on certain parts of that song and things that he played on the guitar were transformative.
Yeah.
That the whole outro of that song, Good to Go, sounds completely different of how I always heard it in my head because of his ascending guitar line that he was doing when I'm doing a descending guitar line, chromatic, on the acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
And I would have never thought of that. That's the magic and the excitement, right? Of you give someone a song who you also trust.
Yeah.
You trust their instinct and you know that they're going to do something incredible and you hope that they're going to do something that you aren't thinking of.
Right. And that's kind of the whole point of letting them do it. So, in fact, one of my favorite albums, and I haven't heard this in a long time. I should go back and listen to it. Vernon Reid's Freeform Funky Freaks.
Yeah, I started listening to that. I know I need to dive back into that.
That is an incredible album.
And then the Yohimbe Brothers project he did with DJ Logic.
Oh, I haven't heard that. Oh,
check that out. Check that out too.
Oh man,
check that out.
You brought up the other Downtime, which that guitar solo right in the middle. I did not expect that at all. That was incredible. That's one of my favorite parts of the album. It's incredible.
Hey! So that's you found downtime, you know? That's what that moment was supposed to be. Like you're in the madness and it's just crazy, crazy, crazy. And we keep hoping, and when is it going to come? And we get a little piece of it here, and then it's gone, and here we go. You know, and I was like, it was so great watching him play that and record that and being in the moment and the magic of that whole thing. And, you know, I'm a big Tears for Fears fan as well. And you can probably hear that. And in some case, like Pink Floyd too, and there's a strong connection there. That moment was sort of me channeling some of those real lush ambient kind of moments with this beautiful melodic soaring guitar part that's not so too busy, you know, and it's just expansive, and then we're back into it.
It breathes.
You know?
What you need is a quiet place. What I want is a wider space. What I need is a state of mind. What I want. When downtime comes, just
one of the things I always liked about later era Rush was that they would have this song, and then they knew exactly when to just let the song breathe.
Yeah, so that's a great documentary. I watched the Neil Peart one, I think.
I can't remember. There's been a couple over the past 5-6 years, but I've seen a couple of them that were really.
Oh man, I remember. You know, we all air drummed to Tom Sawyer as a kid. I mean, we all knew that.
Oh yeah.
I remember. Yeah, I mean that was incredible, and just talk about an amazing power trio. You know, there's so many great power trios right throughout the years, and they are like no one else sounded like Rush. And the fact that what all of them were able to do, you know, at the same time, multitasking
and their sound changed a bunch, but it always sounded like Rush. Part of it's Geddy's voice, but part of it is part of it is the musicians. I mean, I've really enjoyed this album, and I'm kind of curious what kind of guitar works best for guitar drumming, because I imagine it's not one with very low action. I'm imagining you're doing something with a lot of a higher action. It's got to be, you know, sit right horizontally. How did you pick the guitar that you use?
It's an ongoing adventure because I've used a lot of different guitars. For guitar drumming one, most of it was a Martin, a solid top Martin that I had gotten. I also have recorded a bit with my Rockbridge, but I started on just Yamahas, and then I've recorded and played with Fender acoustics.
Okay.
It's the issue that I'm finding is, again, because I'm dad fatting, which is sort of down tuning the strings a little bit, right? Yeah. The action, the way that the adjustments on the neck and the action need to be a certain way so that the strings aren't buzzing against the frets, right? Mm-hmm. But also I'm finding that I am destroying pickups. Because of the force and the knocking and the banging and the attack that I'm delivering on the strings and the body of these guitars. The original pickup that came in the Rockbridge, I literally just knocked it off, and it was crackling and broken. I had to get it fixed.
Oh wow!
So my struggle right now is finding I've tried some graphite guitars. I also used to play on an Ovation.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, I never had any issues with the pickup falling out of that Fishman. I have a Fishman pickup in the Martin and in the Rockbridge. So for me, I think it's just finding. I have to. Number one, I want to make a custom guitar, the body, because I want to reshape it so that it cradles my midsection when I play, and I want to figure out a way to have the pickup installed in the guitar so that I cannot knock it loose. I can't, it's, you know, and it might be one of those like Rain Song graphite guitars.
Okay.
Where they can really, because they have to be really careful from what I understand, like in the $10,000 guitar, Rockbridge, you use a certain kind of glue, right, to attach the pickup.
Okay.
You're not screwing stuff in and bolting stuff. You're like, because most people play with a pick or finger picking, and they're not friggin' bashing shit out. So that's the struggle for me is figuring out just a guitar I can play where I'm not going to destroy the pickup. But it still has to have resonance. Yeah. It still has to have nice tones when I knock on the body, and be a full dreadnought, Mm-hmm. So it's still an exploration. It's an ongoing search for the magic combination of the right body and the right pickup and how it's attached so that it stays in place.
Are you using it strung left-handed or right-handed?
It's right-handed.
Okay.
It's a right-handed guitar, strung right-handed, and then laid flat, so the low string is facing me.
Right. Okay. So, well,
do you have any suggestions?
Yeah. I'm thinking. There's a few custom guitars out there that might work. I will do a little research. I've been trying to follow some because I'd love to. I've been trying to get a few people on the podcast to talk because I think that's a fascinating creative endeavor. Is being a luthier. That's just amazing.
Yes.
So if I can ever get one on the podcast, I'll try to connect you guys.
Well, Brian Calhoun, who is the co-owner of the Rockbridge guitar. In fact, the last day of OAR tour in 2020, Richie and I walked to Rockbridge Guitars in where is it? It's in Charlottesville.
Okay.
And we chose our wood. But going to see the shop, the Rockbridge shop, and see how they make the guitars and the process and how they have to take the planks of wood and how they store them and then have to bend it ever so gently and the bracing, and it's incredible art form. Incredible art form.
It's something that's always fascinated me. I wish I had the time and the skill to do something like that, even if it's just a little as a hobby. That's just so fascinating to me.
I agree.
So I agree. Do you have plans to take Guitar Drumming #1 out on the road and tour?
Yeah, I've got shows booked. Again, I've been doing that residency, and I'm trying to schedule more opening slots, be a supporting artist. Okay. I think that's something that I'm really working towards this year. I'm opening up some shows for Of Good Nature coming up and playing keyboards with them.
Nice.
I've got a Florida show at the Wiley House next month. I'm opening up for Mark Roberge at the Hershey Vineyards in June, which I'm excited about. And I've got this Rock by the Sea festival I'm playing in Florida the end of April. And so what I'm doing now is fleshing out some more of these. OAR has a show in Boston on this weekend. So let me book a solo show the day before, the day after. And that's what I did last year was I kind of booked this tour within a tour, which was awesome.
That's awesome.
It was a lot of work, but why not take advantage of the fact that I'm already going to be traveling with this incredible band, and I've got songs I'm releasing. I should be playing out. I should be out there playing. Yeah. So, part of my journey now is trying to bring on a couple new team members. I do everything pretty much by myself. I have a small group of key players that help me as they can, but I really need to find like that right booking agent that understands what I'm doing and can connect the dots. I think, I've been reaching out to my musician friends, like even G Love and like Vernon about, I'd love to play open up for you sometime and we could do the song together.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. So right now that's what I'm doing is kind of fleshing out the rest of the year for as many of these Guitar Drumming 1 shows as I can do. And then as well, ramping up to Guitar Drumming 2, which I'm planning for the end of September.
Oh, awesome.
When Ocean's Calling Festival, the band does in Ocean City, Maryland, and that's the end of September. So I'm going to have a solo show the day before and do a record release, if all goes well, record release on that Thursday, and then we do the festival.
Oh, that's awesome. Well,
yeah.
If you get... I got to see. I know my friends of mine go to Ocean City all the time, but I'm pretty sure that's a few hours for me. I'm a little outside of DC. So if you guys ever come to DC,
Yes.
I would love to. I do a lot of concert photography. So,
oh shoot, okay.
In fact, I both my the podcast and my personal account. I just followed you this afternoon, so all my photos are on there. So
great. There's the band has a couple DC things coming up. I'll send you those dates.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be in DC with the DC area with Of Good Nature next month.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So there'll be some opportunities where you could come to a show and we can meet up and hang out. That'd be great.
That would be awesome. Yes. Yeah, what is the best way for people to find the album, follow you to find out where you're going to be for your solo stuff and for OAR?
Yeah. MikeLParis.com is a great spot. It's all one word, Mike L. Paris. And it's the same thing on all my socials. It's at Mike L. Paris, all one word. And those are really the best ways right now to, find me on Spotify. I've got songs coming out every 2 weeks, really, 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah, every Friday, and music videos as well. And
excellent. So is Spotify the best way? Or is there a way, are there going to be any physical copies, or is it going to be like a Bandcamp thing too? Or
yeah, there's going to be, I'm going to make some vinyl.
Oh, nice.
I made vinyl for Snidbits, which was awesome. And I figured if we're making physical product for a medium that most people don't listen to anymore, I'd rather at least be something that they could put on the wall.
Yeah.
And is also art work and in that format. And I always wanted to make, as a kid, talking about the dreams of being a musician, to make a record. And so the Snidbits vinyl was my first physical vinyl I ever made. And it was incredible and exciting. So that's the plan for Guitar Drumming 1, is to, and then Guitar Drumming 2, part of the idea was maybe I do a double album, and it's just guitar drumming, and it's 1 and 2. So I'm still trying to figure that out, but I need to figure it out soon, because I really want to have I'm doing a show in Hershey with my friend Van Gordon next month at this awesome place. And I wanted to have some physical products. So thank you for reminding me. I do need to figure that out.
My pleasure.
Yeah, man.
Well, Michael, man, this has been a blast.
It's been so much fun.
I really enjoyed it, man.
Automatic every single day, raised in static. In exactly the same way. Automatic, why don't you try to simplify? Live your life among the most resistance. I live my life amongst the free. I try to find a way to find consistency. What you've done to